And welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So as announced, there has been some further adjustments to companions on the preview server, the preview of module 25. So we can at least get a somewhat sense of how the companions are going to lie with the next module. In particular, I want to test out like the top 10 that were the top 10 when I tested them earlier in the preview of module 25, and in particular the honey badger, which seems to be an outlier, at least it was, with regards to it dealing a ton of damage more than the other companions. Now it might just be due to the case of it having this extra feature which doubles its damage, and thus the devs try and balance the companions around just their raw damage that they can deal. And that means that if they're taking the math of a pseudo dragon and then copying that over to the honey badger, well, the honey badger has that ability of doubling its damage, which would then mean its base damage would have to be much lower to be in line with the pseudo dragon. You get my point, right? So if their base damage is the same, the honey badger's damage will just be more because of its ability. Anyway, I don't know what the devs are trying to do, but yes, the honey badger still remains a top companion, the top companion. I can run you through my tests, and it's gone up even more from what they had before, because they went and said in a post they're going to buff all the companions by 20% base damage at least, adjust some of the other companions. And we can see the honey badger has gone from like 51,000 encounter DPS to nearly 63,000 encounter DPS, so it's been buffed. And then I went back and tested the paranoid delusion again for the different classes, and that's changed a little bit again. So again, all of this is open to change, and you can see my data, my current data of the testings I've done. Like, I tested with module 25, the preview of it, just over 70 companions there, and then they announced they'll be still making further changes, increasing them all by 20%, and then I've went and tested like them again, get the top ones, tested them, and we can see the order has changed a little bit. And yes, like the rogues paranoid delusion got a nerf, the rangers paranoid delusion also got a nerf, but like the paladins one, the clerics one, the warlock, the wizards one, they all got a bit of a buff because they all got hit by that extra 20%. Same with the honey badger, it's gone up from 51,000 to 62,000. Your black death scorpion also gone up, your tomb spider, your vicious dire wolf, your pseudo dragon. It seems though, oddly enough, the rumpadump has received no change. We can go and we can order these here right now, and you can see this is what it's looking like more so. The honey badger still a clear outlier on top. I don't know whether they will keep it that way, because it can depend a lot on the fight. If your companion's taking a ton of damage and nobody's healing it back up, it will lose out on a lot of damage. And also, the honey badger has a ton of burst damage. Just have a look. See that max hit of like 500k. And this is on a build with not great stats. You can see them right there. A DPS character has much better offensive stats than that, including more base damage. So you'll be having your honey badger at least on a DPS character hitting up to like 800k, and in an artifact called 1.2 million, 1.3, depending on if you're at a trial or dungeon and if the timing is right on that big hit ability. And outside of that, ferocious swipe hitting up to nearly 200k. This companion can hit for a ton of damage, and again, it's mainly just due to the ability of its damage being doubled when its hit points is 90% or above. So again, it depends on the content. And I have been running this new trial, and you can see DPS are using honey badger. They're all attacking Hallister there, and it works pretty well. You will get people running defensive augments instead of strikers with this trial, because it is particularly tough and rough with regards to the amount of damage you take. It depends. If you have a group who can run like the feral raptor, usually they're okay not running defensive augments. But if you don't have the feral raptor, you might want to consider defensive augments for those extra defensive stats. That extra survivability can be pretty useful, especially if you're learning, making mistakes. You might need that extra survivability. But ultimately, people will switch back to striker companions to just add to their damage overall. So basically they get more damage on the pain giver and I guess get through the content quicker. When you get to this point of knowing the trial, the patterns, and are able to avoid taking unnecessary damage, and healers and tanks and so on being able to have active the appropriate mitigation so that we don't have to run extra survivability. So it is good to know what will be performing the best in terms of a striker companion. And for now, a honey badger seems to be a clear top. And you can check the logs, the damage logs. And you can see the damage of the honey badger. It's freaking insane, hitting up to like 114,000 encounter DPS. That's over 20% of your overall damage. Like this guy, to be exact, okay? So he had like nearly 400,000 encounter DPS, and his companion's doing like 114,000. That means his companion's dealing 28.5% of his damage. Yeah, augment companion, in terms of giving ratings, is never gonna keep up with that. So that's freaking ridiculous. And this isn't the only attempt. These guys all have honey badgers too, hitting for like 80,000, 100,000 there, 110,000 there. This other run here again, 106,000, 105, 102. So yeah, definitely honey badger gonna be kicking ass in this new trial. Now, I have some logs of, let's say, when I was running it, and we didn't run with a bard healer, and you can see it compared with, let's say, the pseudo dragon. When you don't have a bard healer and you just have like a cleric, and let's say you're wiping and not doing so great, the pseudo dragon does have reliable sustained damage. You can compare like me and my honey badger, or this guy Psy's honey badger, versus the pseudo dragon there. It's like 55,000 versus 57,000, or this guy with 67,000. So the pseudo dragon can be reliable, but it's not keeping up with these honey badgers. No, not when you're in a good group who knows what they're doing and the healers are able to keep those companions healed. And remember when I was saying the honey badger can hit for like 1.3 million? Well, in a trial it can hit up to 2.6 million. Yeah, okay. It's can be quite ridiculous when you get the timing right. Or, I mean, you can't really, it's RNG, but when it gets that effectiveness in an article, it be hitting for a ton. So you can see from my data here, it's not fully complete, but like the top damaging companions have all been increased by 20% or so. And I got to go and retest like all of these again, and most likely they're all increased by 20% as well. I've gone and tested like the mythic companions, Jarlaxle, Lich Makus, Linu, and they all don't seem to have had any reworks to their abilities. So their damage is increased by 20%, but that's minuscule when you're only talking about like 11,000. You're only going up to like 13,000. So that's not making any difference. But they seem to have changed a little bit here. Look at the top companions, okay? So exclude the Paranoid Delusion for the Ranger there, and for the Cleric and the Paladin, you go the next like companion everybody can use is the Tomb Spider, and that's gone up to like 41,000. Then you have the Jagged Dancing Blade, also about 40,000. Same with the Owl, the Pseudo Dragon, the Direwolf. They're all really close to that 40,000, which is a good thing. It means they're making more balance. But this is only with the top companions. You can see it quickly goes down. Like Rumpadump already dropping down to only 37,000, and I assume it's only going to get worse from there. Ideally, yes, they'll make every single companion be able to capably deal like 40,000 encounter DPS, and then we have everything at like a level playing field, and then all it really matters is their unique abilities, whether they're like the honey badger with an ability to gain double damage at a certain condition, or having certain powers which are AoE and certain powers which are not, because in actual fact the honey badger is AoE on its ferocious swipe, so it can deal a ton of damage. They just got to be grouped up. But then yeah, you have so many different companions with so many different abilities. Like you might very well be worth it sacrificing a bit of damage to run a Black Death Scorpion for its utility, as its damage is not exactly that short of the other top ones here. Yes, when you look at the honey badger, but that seems to be a clear outlier. And again, all open to change. We do not know if the honey badger is going to stay like this. I don't really see a big deal if it does stay like this, The Honey Badger is not exactly the most expensive companion to get, and you can just get it from the Zen market as well and then have it as account wide. So you can't really sell this thing on the auction house for more than $1 million or so, because nobody's going to buy it when they can just get it on the Zen market for far cheaper. It's not likely to disappear from the Zen market anytime soon, but don't quote me on it. Who knows? You never know what they'll do. Again, all these data is open to change still. Like Module 25 is still on preview. I don't know if they will still make more changes. Like, I hope they do, because there's still a ton of companions which perform terribly, and they could well do with a bit of love with regards to their abilities and mechanics and just raw damage improvement. Again, we'll see what happens. If you have any particular companion you think is performing particularly well, I know people have been saying the werewolf, but really, guys, the werewolf not doing good, so great. Not as good as these top guys with single target damage. Massive thank you again to all these channel members for their continued support. You can support me for as little as €1 a month just by clicking the join button. And we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.